Hi, thanks for watching. I'm Lauren and I'm here in the pattern room of my shop, Guthrie and Ganny. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you my top picks and hints and tips for picking a dressmaking pattern if you are a beginner dressmaker, or maybe you're just starting out on your journey and you're still a few projects in and you're not quite sure where to progress to or what to try next. Then this will really help to narrow down your choices and focus on something that is going to be achievable. This video does sit alongside another one that I've done that focuses all on fabrics for beginner dressmakers as well. So by the time you've watched this one and then you've also focused on the fabrics as well, you should be in a really good place to pick and plan a project that you will set you off on your dressmaking journey and give you a garment that you're really proud of. I'll link to the blog post that goes with this specific video in the description as well, and in there you can find links of where to buy all of these patterns. Some are ones that we sell here in the shop, other ones are ones that are available as PDF patterns from different pattern company websites, but I've put all the links together, and if you are accessing a PDF pattern from another website and you would like to use our A0 printing service, then that is available to you as well. So before I give you specific examples of patterns, I wanted to just outline a few characteristics that are good to look out for when you're looking for a beginner's dressmaking pattern. So the first one is something where the fit is generally a bit looser. There are so many different things to sort of get your head around when you start dressmaking: the fabric, the pattern, the fit, all of the sewing terms, the machine, all of these different elements coming together. And fitting in itself is a skill that you will constantly be building and working on throughout your dressmaking journey. So by picking something in the first instance that's not designed to be very fitted, will just generally make it a little bit easier and will increase the chances of you actually making something that you can generally get on your body. The other characteristic is something that's designed to be made with woven fabric as opposed to jersey fabric. Again, once you start getting to grips with all of the different types of fabrics, and they're kind of like two broad categories: fabrics that are woven and fabrics that are stretchy or jersey. The stretchy and jersey fabrics just add another dimension to the dressmaking journey. So as a very first project, if you're one or two projects in, it's probably best to just stick with the patterns that are for woven fabrics. The next thing is just picking a garment that's fairly simple as well and doesn't have too many special features. So avoid things like collars or cuffs or plackets or things that have got buttonholes. So ideally things that can either be pulled on and off over your head quite easily without having to undo anything, or then if we're thinking about skirts, something that's just either going to stretch over your hips or something that kind of ties round are really good options. And then lastly, picking a reputable sewing pattern company that is known for having instructions that are a little bit more in depth can also be a good place to start too, because you're just going to be able to learn a lot more as you actually make the pattern. The information will just be there. Some sewing pattern companies, especially the more traditional ones, tend to be a bit more vague in their instructions. So if you're a beginner, it can end up really slowing down the process if you're seeing an instruction that's quite vague and then you're having to separately go and look up what the instruction actually means. Whereas there's some really good sewing pattern companies that actually include a lot of that learning and teaching within their instructions. So it just makes the process of following the steps of making a garment much easier and straightforward. Now, a few general tips as well before we start picking out specific projects is that if you're at the start of your dressmaking journey, you must remember that mistakes are a very good thing. They are a way that you're going to learn, and you will make mistakes. The first thing that you make is not going to be perfect, and that is okay. I feel like as adults we put a lot of pressure on ourselves when we're learning a new skill, that if it's not really good the very first time we do something, that it means we're just not good at that thing, and that is not true at all. Learning to sew is like learning any other skill, at all, like riding a bike, driving a car, you know, making, constructing anything. You know, there's lots of different elements to it, and you have to start somewhere. So please don't be hard on yourself. Embrace those mistakes as learning experiences, and don't let that hold you back from actually just having a go and trying something, because you have to start somewhere. The other thing to bear in mind that I've picked up on quite a lot over the years that I've taught sewing classes here at Guthrie and Ganny, and that I've had the shop and been talking to customers, is that you need to remember with items of clothing that they are 3D shapes. So even if you've done sewing before where you've maybe focused on home interiors or more craft-based projects where things tend to be a little bit flatter, or you know, the pieces that you're working with are a bit straighter, when you come to make clothes, you're sculpting the fabric to be 3D and to be able to fit around your body. And your body is not the same at the front and back. So, you know, the shape of the bits of fabric that you cut out are not going to be the same on the front and the back. And because you're making something that is 3D, it won't, as you start to sew the pieces together and construct them, it won't all lay perfectly flat on the table and line up. So you have to really just bear that in mind as you're making clothing, because it can have you second guessing things a lot if you sort of put something down on the table and you think, oh, why don't these pieces match? Well, it's because the front part of your body is not the same shape as the back part of your body, so the bits of fabric that's going to be covering them are different shapes. And then the next thing that I want to measure as well is when you do come to actually make a garment and you're picking a size and taking your measurements, actually selecting what size to make does also come down to a little bit of trial and error. But the main thing that I want you to take away from this particular video is that you must always take your body measurements, and don't pick a size to make on a sewing pattern based on what the size is called. It's very, very common that between different sewing pattern companies that you will be a different size, and you must not focus on what is labelled as the size. Just like when you go and buy clothes in a high street shop, and in one shop you're one size, and another shop or brand you're another size. It is the same with sewing patterns as well, and you must not dwell on what the size is actually called. I do have another video and a blog post as well, which again I'll link to in the description to this one, so that if you want to dive a little bit deeper into picking a size and taking your measurements, then you can do that. Because quite commonly what I see is that people are making things that are too big for them because they're worried that they're not going to fit, or they think that they'll just size up because then it means that at least they'll be able to get it on their body. And then you end up making something that's just completely drowning you. So it is, you know, for your very first project, don't want you to focus on it too much, but it's generally something to bear in mind. Okay, so on to specific pattern recommendations now, and I've split it up into 3 different types of garment groups. So we've got pajama bottoms or elasticated waist trousers, we've got simple tops, and then we've also got simple skirts as well. And all these types of garments are really good for making your very first garment, or if you've made one garment before or a couple of garments and you're wanting to try something else, then looking at all these different types of patterns are a good place to start, and just keep practicing and pushing your skills and learning new things with every project. So with pajama bottoms or elasticated waist trousers, you can kind of change what sort of look and feel the garment will have by choosing a different type of fabric. So in my separate fabrics video and post, I talk a lot more in depth about different types of fabric that you can choose to make that type of garment that will give more of a pajama feel and more of like a lighter weight sort of summery trouser feel to them as well. In terms of specific pattern recommendations, the Tilly and the Buttons Jamie Pajamas is a really good option. The Avid Seamstress Pajama Bottoms, the Megan Nielsen Opal trousers, and you can also omit the pockets from these garments as well for an even easier make, in which case there might even just be 2 pattern pieces. There might just be a front and a back leg when you come to make these garments if you're not doing the pockets. The Friday Pattern Company Saguaro set, so the trouser part of that set is really nice and easy and simple, and then it does come with a top as well, so maybe that's another thing that you would then have to try later down the line. The So Liberated Nocturne Pajamas and the So Liberated Chanterelle Pants and Shorts. I mean, there are lots and lots of other sewing patterns that are very much in that vein out there. I didn't want to overwhelm you with lots of names. I think this is a nice little selection to have a look at, and it will give you an idea of the characteristics to look for, so that if you do have another pattern or you find another one, if it's similar to these ones, then it's going to be a good choice for a first project. When it comes to simple tops, again, another really nice choice for a first garment project. And what I would recommend to look out for is that they're either sleeveless or the sleeve is quite short, and the sleeve is like an extension really of the front part of the garment. So it's not like you're actually sewing on a separate bit of fabric onto the main body of the garment to get the sleeve. The sleeve just sort of, yeah, it's just part of the same fabric that continues over. As I mentioned before, a top that you can just loosely pull on and off over your head is really good as well. Or maybe if it's got a little tie, so it's just got some tabs at the back where you're tying a little bow to take it on and off, as opposed to having some sort of zip or another type of fastening in order to take the top on and off. So a fit that's kind of loose enough, yeah, that you can just pull it on and off over your head. A couple of bust darts, which are the ones that are here, which give some shaping at the bust, or no darts at all, are also going to make the project much simpler as well. So some really good examples of that are the Tilly and the Buttons Stevie top, the So Liberated Strata top, the Liesel & Co Verdon woven top, the Closet Core Celio top, which does have set-in sleeves, so that's maybe not a very first one, but a nice one to progress on to. And then the Sew House 7 Remy raglan top. So this one has what's called raglan sleeves, and this is where the sleeve is, there's not a seam over this part of the shoulder. The sleeve seam actually comes diagonally in towards the neckline, and it's a much easier type of sleeve to sew in because it's effectively just more like a regular seam rather than trying to fit a sort of rounded cylindrical shape of a sleeve into a bodice. So yeah, raglan sleeves are typically much easier to sew. And then finally, the Helen's Closet Ashton top is another really good one as well. That is actually what I'm wearing just now, and it comes sleeveless, but you can, if you want to then progress on to actually putting sleeves on it later, then there is a sleeve expansion pack that you can also get for that pattern too, which you would then be sewing in a set-in sleeve. So that would be something that you would do further down the line as you're sort of progressing your skills. And then finally, a skirt is a really good option as well, either for your first project or, depending on the characteristics of the skirt, it can be a good one to start moving on your skills a little bit. So looking for wrap skirts is good, or if it's got an elasticated waist that you can just pull it on and off is good as well. I do have an example of a zipped skirt as well, so that, as I would say, a zipped skirt is not your very, very first project, but it is a good one to progress on to as well. So the Helen's Closet Donovan skirt, it's got an elasticated waist, so again, much easier. There are also quite a lot of elasticated waistband skirt tutorials that are out there as well. So this is where it's not necessarily like a specific pattern that you would buy, but you're just literally measuring your own body and then using those measurements to calculate how much fabric to cut out. So in the blog post, I've linked to an example of a tutorial for something like that I thought looked quite good. So that would be a good one to follow if you didn't want to actually purchase a separate specific pattern. Then there's the Tilly and the Buttons Dominique skirt. There's the Closet Core Fior skirt, which does have quite a few different options within it. The wrap skirt version of that is going to be easier, and that particular pattern is also available as part of an online course as well with Closet Core. So it's a really good beginner's pattern that will allow you to progress your skills as well, because it's got those different versions in it. You can keep trying different versions and they're all slightly more challenging than the next one. And then finally, the Sew Over It Ava skirt is just a really lovely, classic, simple A-line skirt, but it does have a zip in it. So again, it's probably not the best one to pick for like a first time project, but it is a really nice way to progress your skills. So I hope that that helps to just sort of narrow down the list a little bit more. I know that there's so many more different patterns that fit into those categories as well, but without giving you like another really overwhelmingly extensive list, I hope that's helped to narrow things down. And then, as I was saying before, if you are finding another pattern, you're thinking, would this be good for my first project? If it's similar to the ones that I've given examples of, then by all means it may very well be. So do remember and check out the fabrics video that is focusing on fabrics for beginner sewing projects as well, and you'll see specific recommendations for the types of patterns that I've mentioned in this video too. If you've got any questions or comments at all, please feel free to leave them on the video. If you want a quick answer to anything or specific types of help, it's always best to just call or email the shop. The G&G team and I are always more than happy to help, so do reach out if you're not sure, or if you've picked a fabric and a pattern, you just want a little sort of second pair of eyes on it just to check that it's a good match, then you can always just let us know as well. But thanks so much for watching, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, then remember to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on my next video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.